a wonderful little experience the first chapter of Bendy and the Ink Machine is. A free taste of what's to come in this 5-part series, the first chapter brilliantly sets up the mood and art style of Joey Drew Studios and the world within it, offering countless nudges towards an incredibly satisfying jump scare. And they did it again! By upping the scares and the lore, Bendy Chapter 2 is better than ever. I know I shouldn't be so invested in a compartmentalized game, but it's early 2017 and life hasn't gone to complete hell yet, so I'm along for the ride. Give me more Bendy! Okay, the fetch quests were pretty tedious, but all the Alice Angel stuff was really cool and the ending was a delight. I have to know what happens next, and I'm only paying $6 per chapter. I love this game and I am still eagerly awaiting what it does next. And all of my fears were dealt with. Bendy Chapter 4 is the best yet! The story gets more and more fascinating with every turn. We have one chapter left after this, and I am so invested. There's no way that the Meatly and Mike mood could fail. They've delivered 4 excellent chapters in a row. I'm throwing all my caution to the wind, and I'm going to spend the next 6 months theorizing and preparing for the climax of one of the most exciting games of 2018.
Whatever you do, don't roll a 7!
The incredible disappointment of Bendy and the Ink Machine, while a real blow to my happiness, wasn't entirely unexpected. In an age where more and more games are being released in chunks, either through an episodic model, early access, or Kickstarter projects where you pay years before the game is even released, there are countless stories of people getting burned by dishonest, disappointing, or even malicious failures. This failure is even more palatable in the wake of Telltale shitting the bed, leaving many people, including myself, who bought The Walking Dead the final season on launch, pretty bitter about paying $20 for a game that was promised, possibly canceled, and then revived at a later point with a new undefined release date. Honestly, this is on me. I shouldn't be allowing myself to fall into this trap time and time again. There was a time back when I played a lot less that I wouldn't sweat waiting until the final product was released, reviewed, and polished before picking up one of these games. But much like with television, in the online space you have 2 options. Either be the first in line for every new update or installment, or get out of the conversation because the grown-ups are talking. Back then I could get away with playing the entire first season of The Walking Dead in one sitting because I wasn't enraptured in the ongoing conversation that unfolded mere hours after every new chunk was released. Episodic gaming is sink or swim, and that pressure forces a choice to be made pretty early on if a property is going to be the focus of your time. Even now, as I'm extolling the horrors of this type of content release schedule, I am deeply invested in the story of Life is Strange 2 based on its excellent first chapter. But Don't Nod is a smaller company, even though it's a company that I trust, and in a post-Telltale world, who's to say that there won't be a press release tomorrow that the remaining chapters of Life is Strange 2 will be thrown into the abyss with no Skybound to rescue it? The Walking Dead fans can rejoice with Robert Kirkman swooping in to save his precious IP, but what if the game that was in mid-release was another season of The Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands, or Batman? Without a guardian angel, fans of those series would be even more disappointed than they are right now with their franchises stalling in between seasons. Not that canceled games fall into the same category, because they don't, but the heavy number of newly abandoned Telltale projects are sitting on an ever-growing shelf with Silent Hills and the like. 10 years ago, Silent Hills was an anomaly, and now it's becoming much more of a constant. And that's just worrying about whether the games will even have an endpoint to be disappointed by. Which brings us back to Bendy and the Ink Machine. When playing a slot machine, there are 3 possible endings. You get what you want, you get what you don't want, and you get nothing. The what you don't category is all over the place and a little hard to define. Sometimes you succeed a little bit, and sometimes you get little more than another chance to play. Those breadcrumbs are why gambling is so exciting to so many people. If they continue to morsel along, the pain of defeat is always just kept at bay. While getting nothing is unfortunately now a possibility with these episodic games, I can't fathom it becoming the norm, at least I hope not. The much more likely scenario is getting something that you don't want in exchange for the monetary and emotional investment put in at the start. The first season of Life is Strange, the second and third seasons of The Walking Dead, and now Bendy and the Ink Machine have all been criticized to hell and back for failing to live up to the promises made in their earliest moments, often feeling like the stories were made up as the developers went along. What do you get when you buy Chapter 1 of an episodic game? You'll either get extremely lucky and strike gold, be disappointed, or be flat out lied to. I know some developers are only financially able to release games in short bursts to build interest, although that still doesn't explain why Hitman 2016 was episodic, but it should never become the norm. When walking into any piece of art, especially one that can take over 10 hours to beat, as is the case with Life is Strange, The Walking Dead seasons, and Bendy, you should know if your commitment is going to bite you in the ass. You would never buy a $25 game if you knew that the last half of it was going to piss you off. And yet that's exactly what we've all done, what I have done countless times, on the slim and futile hope that we would get as lucky as we got that one time when we were told a story about a man named Lee and his friend Clementine.